They call it La 42, a name whispered with both fear and familiarity in the streets of Santo Domingo. At first glance, it looks like a place forgotten by time, crumbling rooftops, tangled power lines, children playing soccer barefoot on cracked concrete. And yet, at sunset, the bass of Dembow music shakes the walls.
Dan el culo y dicen que son los sicarios. Entonces tú tienes tu rabia, que llegó el veterinario. Menores están en los platos, que están vaqueando los puntos con su tabla. Siempre cuarta, nadie quiere ser difunto. Rompiendo todos los proyectos, a mí nadie puede llegarme. Nada más que yo me muera, tú estás loco.
Artists spray graffiti like it's sacred scripture. Elders sit at the corners reciting stories not found in books, stories that keep this place breathing. In a neighborhood deemed the most dangerous in the Dominican Republic, you'll find the deepest sense of unity. This isn't just a street, it's a contradiction, chaotic and vibrant, feared and full of life. So the question is, how can danger feel this alive? Number 1. The origins of La 42. Let me take you back to the heart of Santo Domingo. Tucked away in the district of Capotillo, there's a narrow street known not by a grand monument or a shining skyline, but by a number. Just 2 digits, 42. To outsiders, the name rings with warnings. It's often labeled as the most dangerous area in the Dominican Republic. A place where police sirens echo like background noise, where headlines rarely talk about hope, only crime. But those who live here, they tell a different story, one rooted in history, survival, and something far deeper than fear. Why the name La 42? It all began with a single street, Calle Cuarenta y Dos, or 42nd Street, running through the Capotillo neighborhood. Over time, the number became more than just an address. It became an identity, a code, a badge of belonging. But to understand why La 42 is what it is today, you have to rewind decades back to a time of turmoil, transition, and abandonment. The story of La 42 is the story of forgotten people. During the mid to late 20th century, waves of internal migration swept through the Dominican Republic. People left rural provinces fleeing poverty, hurricanes, and crop failure in search of a better life in the capital. But the city wasn't ready for them. There was no plan, no housing, no support systems. So families built with whatever they could find: tin sheets, wood scraps, cinder blocks. And from the cracks of urban neglect, La 42 rose. This kind of unplanned urban sprawl wasn't unique to Santo Domingo, but in La 42, the layers piled up fast, overcrowding fragile infrastructure and economic instability. By 2025, government data estimates over 80% of homes in La 42 still lack secure land tenure. That means they legally don't exist. Let that sink in. Thousands of families born and raised in La 42 still live in places considered invisible on paper. And when a place is invisible, it gets ignored. Schools get underfunded. Roads don't get fixed. Jobs scarce. Access to healthcare patchy at best. La 42 became a textbook example of what happens when social inequality meets institutional failure. Over time, these conditions created a cycle. When opportunity disappears, people look for survival any way they can, and when the system doesn't protect you, you build your own. But let's be clear, La 42 isn't dangerous because of the people who live there. It's dangerous because of the history that built it and the systems that abandoned it. Number 2, daily life and struggle. Everyday life in La Cuarenta y Dos is not easy, but it's alive. It starts early. As the first rays of sunlight break through the dense patchwork of tin rooftops, the community wakes up one sizzling pan at a time. The scent of fried empanadas fills the air. Kids run barefoot across cracked sidewalks. Vendors wheel carts through narrow alleys, shouting out their offerings: fruit-fried cheese, cold drinks in reused soda bottles. This is la vida cotidiana, daily life in La Cuarenta y Dos. It may look chaotic to an outsider, but here, every sound, every step follows an invisible rhythm. Most people here survive off the informal economy. That means small-scale vending odd jobs, street repairs, or working as motoconchos, motorbike taxis, weaving through crowded streets. According to the Dominican Ministry of Economy, over 68% of residents in Capotillo have no formal employment as of early year 2025. That's not a lifestyle choice. It's a reality shaped by the lack of access to steady jobs, education, or even bank credit. So people hustle, not to get rich, just to eat. In the absence of big opportunities, it's the small transactions, the bag of rice, the bottle of cooking oil, the shared ride that keep the community turning. But the hustle faces daily interruptions. Electricity. It comes and goes. On average, power cuts last between 4 to 8 hours a day, and in hotter months, they hit harder, disrupting refrigeration, internet, and any kind of home business. Clean water. Not guaranteed. Most households rely on rooftop tanks filled by unreliable public supply. When they run dry, families must buy water by the bucket from private sellers. Even basic mobility is a struggle. Potholes eat up the roads. Public transport barely reaches the inner blocks of La Cuarenta y Dos. Ambulances hesitate. Delivery trucks often refuse to enter. And yet life goes on. Home in La Cuarenta y Dos means creativity under pressure. Most families live in small improvised homes, 1 or 2 rooms shared by 5 to 7 people. Walls are patched together with cinder blocks and painted with leftover colors. Some roofs leak, some doors are just curtains. But what these houses lack in space, they make up for in community warmth. Neighbors look out for each other. Children get babysat across households. When someone's gas runs out, the neighbor next door lends theirs. No paperwork, just trust. It's easy to think a place without formal structure must be lawless. But in La Cuarenta y Dos, structure doesn't come from uniforms or city hall, it comes from rhythm, routine, and mutual respect. There's no rulebook posted on a wall, no official curfew, no public meetings in auditoriums. What exists here is something quieter, something earned, not imposed. It's found in the way people lower their voices when elders walk by. In the way kids know which corners to avoid at certain hours, not out of fear, but out of instinct passed down. It's seen when a neighbor drops off a warm meal without being asked, when someone sweeps not just their own doorstep, but the entire block. These gestures may seem small, but they hold the place together. Community here isn't just about proximity, it's about participation. Every action carries a shared weight. A morning greeting becomes a safety check. A borrowed tool comes with unspoken trust. Respect isn't written, it's lived day by day in the choices people make to look out for one another. Instead of strict authority, there's something softer but no less powerful collective memory. People remember who showed up during storms, who stayed calm during chaos, who protected the children when the power went out. Those memories shape behavior more than any warning sign ever could. And despite the hard edges of life, there's room for joy here. In the golden hour before dusk, music leaks from windows. Toddlers chase each other around broken fences, while someone laughs from a plastic chair. At night, the sounds of life don't disappear. They mellow into stories, soft radio tunes, and the clink of domino tiles on concrete tables. It's not the kind of peace you find in silence, it's the kind you find in presence. Because in La Cuarenta y Dos, people show up for each other. Not because they have everything, but because they have each other. Number 3, street culture and identity. If La Cuarenta y Dos had a heartbeat, it would sound like Dembow. The bass doesn't knock, it rattles. It climbs out of speakers propped on windowsills and homemade DJ booths. It pulses through alleyways, across balconies, under bare light bulbs strung across rooftops. Dembow isn't just music here. It's movement, it's memory, it's defiance dressed in rhythm. This unique genre, born from a blend of Jamaican dancehall reggaeton and Dominican soul, has its roots planted deep in neighborhoods like Capotillo. And make no mistake, La Cuarenta y Dos didn't just adopt Dembow, it helped raise it. Some of the country's biggest underground names started right here. Artists like Yomo El Meloso and Kiko El Crazy once recorded tracks with nothing more than a borrowed mic and mattress-lined walls. They didn't wait for studio deals or mainstream validation. They built their sound in the same streets they grew up on. And behind many of these raw, unfiltered voices is 42 Music, a grassroots label founded by locals for locals. By early year 2025, community-based labels like 42 Music have helped launch over 30 independent Dembow artists, many of whom are now gaining millions of streams across platforms like YouTube and Spotify. But beyond the numbers, what matters more is what the music says. Dembow lyrics talk about survival, frustration, love, loyalty, and pride. They speak in the slang of the street. They tell the stories no one else dares to publish. But it's not just what you hear, it's also what you see. Every wall in La Cuarenta y Dos is a canvas. Graffiti bold, chaotic, sometimes poetic colors the neighborhood with names, symbols, portraits, and protests. One wall might show a mural of a fallen friend. Another might shout, "El barrio vive," the neighborhood lives. This is not mindless tagging. This is storytelling. This is ownership. For youth who have no gallery, no platform, no voice in the political system, the spray can become a megaphone. In a community where public expression is often dismissed, graffiti says, "We exist. We remember. We resist." Music and street art here don't just entertain, they protect. They protect identity in a world that tries to erase it. They protect dignity when institutions fail to provide it. They protect mental health when pressure closes in from all sides. According to the Dominican National Youth Observatory, over 50% of teenagers in urban poverty zones like Capotillo report using music or street art as their primary coping mechanism. That's more than half of an entire generation turning to creativity as a lifeline, not just a hobby. That makes art not optional but essential. And this is what makes La Cuarenta y Dos truly special. In a place where outsiders only see danger, locals have created culture. Where others see ruins, they build rhythm. In the face of silence, they make noise. Not noise for the sake of attention, but for the sake of identity. Yes, the government may not fund youth centers. Yes, the schools might lack resources. But the kids here, they've built their own platforms out of paint cans, beats, and borrowed speakers. They don't wait for change. They make it loud enough that change has no choice but to listen. Number 4. Children and education. In La Cuarenta y Dos, childhood is a race against time. Not the kind of race you win with a trophy, but one where the finish line keeps moving, where innocence gets replaced with survival, and school books are traded for street work far too soon. By the time the sun rises over the narrow rooftops of Capotillo, many children here are already on their feet, not to go to school, but to help their families survive. Selling fruit, carrying water, watching younger siblings while their parents try to earn whatever they can. According to the Dominican Republic's Ministry of Education, as of early year 2025, more than 28% of children in impoverished urban areas begin working before the age of 12. In neighborhoods like La Cuarenta y Dos, the number is likely higher, though few official records exist to confirm it. And for girls, the path is even harder. Teen pregnancy remains one of the most urgent issues in this community. A recent UNICEF report revealed that in zones marked by extreme poverty across the Dominican Republic, 1 in every 4 girls becomes a mother before turning 18. Now think about that. That's not just a statistic. That's thousands of girls, some still wearing school uniforms, suddenly becoming parents, suddenly expected to raise a child when no one gave them the tools to raise themselves. It's not because they don't dream, it's because the system makes it nearly impossible for those dreams to grow. Let's talk about the schools, or more accurately, what's left of them. Many schools in Capotillo were built decades ago with little maintenance since. Paint peels off the walls, roofs leak when it rains, classrooms meant for 20 kids now hold over 40, teachers are overwhelmed, underpaid, and in short supply. According to the Dominican National Statistics Office, the student-to-teacher ratio in marginalized urban schools currently stands at 42:1, almost double the national average. In La Cuarenta y Dos, some classrooms don't even have chairs for every student. You'll find kids sitting on cinder blocks or sharing notebooks because there aren't enough to go around. One teacher told us, "I don't teach math anymore, I teach patience." But perhaps what's most painful is what we don't see. The The children who never make it into those overcrowded classrooms. The ones whose names never appear on a school registry because they had to drop out at 8 or 9. The ones who never learned to write their own names but know exactly how to count pesos, pack groceries, or run from police raids. This is not a failure of motivation. It's a failure of access. And yet there's a flicker of resistance. A quiet revolution fueled by hope. Across La Cuarenta y Dos, small but mighty efforts are rising up. Community centers turned classrooms. Volunteers who teach kids to read after hours. A local woman named Clara converted her living room into a learning space. She now teaches over 20 children in shifts armed with nothing but secondhand books and unmatched determination. Non-profits like Educación para Todos and Juntos por los Niños have begun partnering with neighborhoods like Capotillo to bring basic school supplies, repair broken classrooms, and provide emotional support services. These are not large-scale operations with flashy websites. They're boots-on-the-ground efforts, real people helping real kids one pencil at a time. Because here's the truth, education in La Cuarenta y Dos is not guaranteed, but it is fought for every single day. And while the road ahead is long and uneven, the community is not waiting for permission to dream. It's creating its own classrooms, its own teachers, its own second chances. So when you hear about La Cuarenta y Dos, don't just think of what's missing. Think of the kids who show up anyway. Think of the mothers who teach by candlelight. Think of the chalkboard propped up on plastic crates. Think of learning, not as a right that's given, but a right reclaimed. Number 5, security and self-governance. Ask anyone outside La Cuarenta y Dos what they think of the place. And chances are they'll pause. They might lower their voice shift in their seat and say something like, "It's not safe. You don't go there." And on paper, that reputation sticks. A recent public safety report by the Dominican Ministry of the Interior listed Capotillo as one of the highest-risk urban zones in Santo Domingo, citing elevated rates of petty crime, informal disputes, and youth-related violence. But here's the thing, numbers don't always tell the full story. Because when you walk these streets, what you find isn't lawlessness. It's the absence of systems. And where systems disappear, survival steps in. Let's talk about why danger exists here in the first place. The roots run deep: unemployment, broken education, no access to credit, poor housing. According to the Dominican National Statistics Office, over 61% of working-age residents in La Cuarenta y Dos are either unemployed or working informal, unstable jobs as of year 2025. That means no job security, no benefits, no way out. In places where stable work is a myth, some people, especially the young, end up looking for income in riskier ways. Street sales, unlicensed lotteries, in some cases even small-time trafficking or smuggling. Not because they want to, but because the math of survival gives them no other options. One local said it best, "Here we don't choose crime, we choose not to starve." Now where's the police in all this? That's where things get more complicated. Technically, law enforcement is assigned to patrol the area, but due to limited manpower, underfunded departments, and let's be honest, a long history of tension between residents and authorities, police presence is inconsistent at best. In fact, a survey from Observatorio de Seguridad Ciudadana showed that more than 75% of residents in low-income Santo Domingo neighborhoods said they did not feel safe calling the police. Not because they didn't want help, but because they feared backlash, profiling, or simply being ignored. In La Cuarenta y Dos, the phrase "we handle it ourselves" isn't just a saying, it's the reality. So how do people stay safe when institutions won't show up? They build their own systems. Across the neighborhood, informal leadership networks have formed. These are not elected officials or uniformed officers. They're usually elders, respected residents who've lived here for decades. They've seen the worst, survived the chaos, and earned the community's trust. These leaders don't carry badges, they carry influence. They mediate disputes, they set ground rules, and in many cases they prevent conflict from escalating when official channels fail to respond. Locals have even created an internal code of conduct, a set of unwritten street laws. Things like, respect the elders. Don't record video of the community without permission. Keep shared spaces clean and safe for kids. Simple rules, but powerful ones. Because when followed, they give the community something more precious than protection. They give it dignity. Of course, it's not perfect. Self-governance comes with risk. There's no oversight, no legal protection, and sometimes the wrong people try to take control. But in a place where formal systems have long been absent, this grassroots order has held La Cuarenta together. Because the truth is, safety here isn't measured by patrol cars. It's measured by trust. Trust between neighbors. Trust in those who lead from within, not above. And while the rest of the city may look at La Cuarenta through a lens of fear, the people who live here, they look at each other and see a kind of protection no government could ever legislate. In a neighborhood abandoned by order, the people created their own. Not perfect, not polished, but real. Because sometimes when the system turns its back, community steps forward. Number 6. Signs of hope and local change. La Cuarenta may be known for its struggles, but the people here are known for something stronger: resilience. And lately, something remarkable has been happening. Not on a grand stage, not with big headlines, but right here, block by block, this community is slowly, steadily rewriting its own story. You see it in the laughter echoing from a dusty courtyard turned into a soccer field. You hear it in the pounding of drums inside a tin-roofed community center. You feel it in the rhythm of kids practicing dance steps on cracked pavement. These are not luxuries, they are lifelines. And they're all built from the ground up. Take the youth sports clubs, for example. Every afternoon, dozens of boys and girls show up to play baseball, soccer, or volleyball. Not in fancy uniforms, not on perfect turf, but with passion that could fill a stadium. Local coaches, many of whom grew up in La Cuarenta themselves volunteer their time hoping to keep kids focused, disciplined, and out of trouble. According to a recent study by Fundación Dominicana para el Desarrollo Juvenil, neighborhoods with active community sports programs saw a 35% drop in youth-related petty crime over the past 2 years. That's not theory, that's impact. And it's not just about sports. Music, too, has become a tool for transformation. Inside what used to be an abandoned storefront, there's now a grassroots music center. Kids walk in curious and walk out with a sense of purpose. They're learning to produce beats, write lyrics, record tracks, all while channeling frustration into creativity. Some of these young artists are now performing in school assemblies, local festivals, even uploading songs that gain thousands of plays online. One of them, a 15-year-old who goes by the stage name Pequeño Quince, recently signed a mentorship deal with an independent label in Santo Domingo. Just 2 years ago, he didn't know how to turn on a microphone. That's the power of opportunity when someone finally holds open a door. And behind these programs are people, quiet heroes who never gave up on their neighborhood. Like Maria Elena, a former teacher who now organizes reading circles and Saturday tutoring under a shade tarp in her front yard. Or like Andres, a former graffiti artist who turned his skills into community murals, bold, colorful messages that say, "We are more than headlines." In fact, when we asked a group of locals what keeps them hopeful, the answer wasn't complicated. One man put it plainly, "If we don't fix our image, who will?" That's why community cleanup days have become more frequent. Why young people are planting trees along the alleys. Why older residents now walk the younger ones to school, not because they have to, but because they believe it matters. And something else is changing too, something big. Tourists are starting to come. Not in crowds, not in buses, but slowly, cautiously, with curiosity and respect. They come for the music, for the street art, for the food that tastes like someone's abuela made it fresh. And they leave with a different picture than the one Google gave them. Local guides, often teens trained through a community initiative, are offering walking tours of murals, music studios, and neighborhood landmarks. Visitors learn about the culture, the struggle, and the soul of La Cuarenta from the people who live it. The Dominican Tourism Innovation Board reported in March of year 2025 that over 400 small-scale cultural tours were booked in low-income neighborhoods like Capotillo over the previous year, up 120% from the year before. And here's the beauty of it: more tourism means more local income, more jobs, more pride. Because when a community starts to believe in itself, others start to believe too. La Cuarenta is not waiting to be saved. It's saving itself. One soccer ball, one verse, one mural, one open heart at a time. This isn't a fairy tale. It's real. It's rough. And it's rising. What we see from the outside is rarely the full picture. La Cuarenta has been called many things: dangerous, chaotic, forgotten. But as we've walked its streets, listened to its music, and shared time with its people, one thing becomes clear. This place is not broken, it's surviving. And danger here isn't a personality trait, it's the side effect of poverty, disinvestment, and decades of being left behind. Media headlines often stop at the surface, but real life. It's messy, complex, and full of heart. There's pain, yes, but also pride. There's struggle, but also strength. So before we judge, let's pause. Before we label, let's listen. Communities like La Cuarenta don't need pity. They need partnership. They don't need saviors. They need to be seen. Because if I had been born in La Cuarenta, maybe I'd be living just like they do. If this story moved you, I invite you to support it, not just by watching, but by understanding. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, and if you'd like to see more human stories from around the world, feel free to subscribe to NVL Travel Documentary. We're just getting started.